Hello, my friends, and welcome to a microphone video, because that's what I do. So here we have a microphone that I got off Facebook Marketplace for $10. I'm very happy with it. So far, I've had it for all of 10 minutes, but it's an interesting use case because, as you might be able to see from my beautiful framing here, it has both an XLR and USB output, which, oh, that's interesting. Hang on. Anyway, this presents an interesting use case because it's it has both XLR and USB, and you can record both at the same time, which is actually what I'm doing. And in post, I'm going to be switching back and forth between the two outputs. I actually don't know if they sound different. I just don't, because I'm right now monitoring through my audio interface, which is how the XLR is plugged in. But I've also tried monitoring through the USB, and that sounds very different and noticeably worse, at least to my ears. But that could be that the monitoring is just not very good. So I really needed to just test and hear both. So how I'm recording this is in OBS. I have the USB input hard panned right and the XLR input hard panned left. And this is what that sounds like if you were to just listen to that. They're at like exactly the same level, pretty much. There's a little bit of a difference, but what that means is that I can separate these out and listen to them individually, because I think that this is a mono microphone. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it changes. I'm pretty sure it's mono. Not that I would get the effect, but this is interesting because I've seen online the not a lot, but I have seen it, the debate between USB and XLR slash audio interface microphones, and I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with a lot of the arguments I've seen. I've heard that USB mics just don't sound real, and I've heard that the extra cost of XLR microphones or TRS to have an audio interface and the extra complexity of it is not worth it. But this will be interesting to see if there's actually a difference. I mean, even this isn't super scientific because the processing could just be done differently. So even this is not super scientific, but it's interesting either way to be able to hear the difference, if there is a difference between what I'm getting over USB and what I'm getting with the afterwards compression, or not compression but processing, that the audio interface is doing. So I'm very curious to hear that. Now, personally, as somebody that owns an audio interface, knows how to use computers. In fact, my audio interface is embedded in my computer so that it's almost like it's just a part of it, which was a fun mod to do, and I'm sure I'll show it off at some point. But I already own everything that I need for XLR microphones, and it's not necessarily an extra expense to me, and it's not something that's difficult for me to use. So I find that I like XLR mics, but I've used a lot of USB mics. In fact, I have somewhere around here a Blue Snowball, because they can be had for $15 if you're looking used on eBay, and they sound fantastic. I I have absolutely nothing against USB microphones, and if I was just starting, I absolutely would just use a USB microphone because it is easier to set up. Um, and oftentimes, sound quality wise, I mean, that is going to depend on the microphone. I don't think that has much to do with whether it's USB or whether it's XLR. I think that has something to do with whether the microphone's good. Though this video could prove me wrong. I don't know. We'll see. I might record a second part to this after I've actually listened to the audio. Although I don't think it's really going to change any of my opinions. It's more just an interesting dynamic of like, is there a difference? What is the difference? I don't know, and you can tell because presumably, if I edit this the way that I was planning to, I'll be switching between the inputs every like 5 or 10 seconds or something, so that you can really hear the difference yourself. Right, that's the other thing I need to talk about. There is one interesting thing that I noticed is at least in the XLR output, you'll notice turning on the RGB lighting, at least for me, very definitely introduces some noise that was not there before. And it also, you can very much hear, okay, desk not so much, but touching the stand in any way, you can definitely hear it. There's a word for that, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. So fortunately, I don't need it because this knob back here adjusts mic gain for the USB. You can hear I'm like silent now on USB. So having that knob is helpful, and having that RGB is helpful. But if it's off, it turns off. So this knob back here, if you long press it, it just turns the RGB lighting off so that you can still visually see your gain. Or if you long press this button, your headphone volume, which of course I'm plugged into audio interface that doesn't do anything because for some reason it sounds like garbage over the headphone output on the mic. But wait, nope, I don't want to do that. There's also a mute there. Yep, USB. There's nothing now. Great. Standard USB mic stuff. And for $10, I think this. I'm very happy with this, no matter what, because being able to do it both ways, very nice. I'm looking. Oh, wait, is there anything here that I wouldn't want you to see? I mean, you can't see anything. This is the listing that I found for it. Wow, I'm very overblown. Yeah, whatever. For $50, I mean, even that, like, that's pretty par for the course for the. Wait, this is not the microphone. I'm stupid. This is not it at all. No, that's just not it. What? Haomuren KD8. It's funny because on the I questioned this because I feel like I've seen this microphone before in like videos with people using it, but maybe I've just seen. This is probably a clone of something. I'm quite certain with a name like Haomuren, but it's interesting that on the user manual, I'm pretty sure you can read that. Yeah, global, right there, global best-selling USB microphone. Something tells me, that it is not. I doubt that very heavily, but I don't know. This is just an experiment. I didn't really have a point to this. I don't even have a script, if you couldn't tell. But I just wanted to see what's going on here. And I feel like I've done that. I will record an addendum if I find anything that I feel is worth talking about. But this is more for me than anything else. So I hope that anyone else who likes microphones the way that I do enjoys this. Thank you. Please like and subscribe if you want more beautiful ASMR content. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, my fair people. Literal minutes later, I have made a discovery. I was expecting very little difference between USB mode and XLR mode, and I was right, but not entirely. Unfortunately, in the previous clip, I did have a little bit of a compressor on the XLR side, so I've taken that off, so it's a little bit of a cleaner comparison, but it shouldn't make that much of a difference. I put them both in Audacity just to see, is there a difference? Yes. However, I'm pretty sure that it was exclusively EQ, because I'm actually going to just show what's happening here. I was listening. This top one is the XLR, yes, and the bottom one is the USB. And I managed to get them to sound very, very similar by applying this EQ curve. It's not exactly the same, but I'm quite sure that if I tuned this EQ curve a little bit, I could get them sounding like exactly the same. There's also like a tiny bit more noise in the XLR one, but that honestly, or maybe it was the USB one, I forget. But my conclusion, they sound pretty much the same, because any difference that I can hear can be EQ'd away, which, and it's not like you need, like, that's not that big of an EQ curve. It's very subtle. So I don't know. Does that say anything? I don't know. It's, again, this is not super scientific. I just wanted to see, and I feel like I've seen, and now I know things. Very interesting. So I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.